Hello and what is going on YouTube, it's Runescape here, and today I have a money making guide for you on Runescape 3 to make upwards of 10 mil an hour AFK while killing spiritual mages in your player owned dungeon. In my opinion, these are better than spiritual warriors. They're not currently as good as Capsarius, but if you were getting bored of killing them, or you were having trouble selling keys if they were crashing and whatnot, then I'd heavily recommend swapping to these, as these are a great alternative and they're going to make you a ton of money. If you're looking for Runescape 3 guides, then I'd heavily recommend checking out the channel down below, as we have tons of guides on the channel and we're going to continue making them. We've also just started our Road to 1 billion series, and we have a massive series in store at the end of that one, so I'd heavily recommend subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on any future uploads. Okay, so now let's get into the method. So the requirements that you're going to need is 99 Slayer, which I know unfortunately not everyone has, but in Runescape 3 you can get upwards of 2 million Slayer XP an hour, so it doesn't actually take that long to get, especially if you're a main account. And you're also going to need 5 spiritual mage souls. You can get these by using the Ushtabis that you get from the Slayer Masters for, I believe, 20 or 30 Slayer points. And for those of you unaware what this is, it's basically the equivalent of a Pokedex in RuneScape, where you can collect souls from killing various monsters in the game, and you can put them in your own player-owned dungeon in order to kill them. You can also go to your friend's player-owned dungeon if they have an enemy that you would like to kill or farm. I'd heavily recommend checking out the Slayer Dunge FC that's on the screen now, and you can simply go in there and ask about to see if anyone has any enemies that you would like to kill. For example, if you want to kill Capsarius or Spiritual Mages, you can go in there and ask if anyone has a free room available, and they'll let you jump in and use it. Before we jump into the gear setup, let's take a look at how I'd recommend getting the souls. I'd recommend going to the Armadillo district in the God Wars dungeon, and just rotate around killing the Spiritual Mages there. You want to kill the Armadillo ones, as that will ensure that you get Armadillo War Priest, so you can get Armadillo components and save you more money in the future. If you need any other components such as Zamorak, kill the Zamorak mages and so forth. And on screen now we actually have the rates that you can obtain the souls. First up, if you're 99 Slayer and you're off task, unfortunately it's going to be a 1 in 500 chance of receiving a soul. This is very bad, I wouldn't recommend doing it at this point. If you did have Cursed Sand, which you can get by killing the elite Slayer mobs that got released, such as the Archaeon Mammoths, the Ripper Demons, Camel Warriors, etc., then you can greatly boost your chance of obtaining a soul by making a Cursed Ushtabi. And at 99 Slayer off task, that will boost you to a 1 in 330, which is a big upgrade. But then if you were to go on a task, your base rate becomes a 1 in 390. If you have the Sand, it's 1 in 260. And if you have the maximum upgraded Slayer helmet from using the corrupted gem from the Sophanum Slayer dungeon, and the Cursed Sand, and you're on task, you're talking a 1 in 248 chance of receiving this. You can also get further boosts from having 120 Slayer and wearing the cape. As you level up your Slayer, your chance of receiving a soul increases, and it caps out at 120 because that's the highest level. And this goes to a 1 in 73 drop rate without any boosts, a 1 in 48 with the Sand, and a 1 in 46 if you have the Sand and the Corrupted Slayer Helm. I done this without the Cursed Sand, and it really didn't take me that long, but I am 120 Slayer, and I do have the upgraded Slayer Helmet. As I said, at a minimum, make sure you do these on task. It's just the lower Slayer level you are, the longer it will take you. Right, so now that we've got the souls, I'm going to get into the gear setup that I would recommend using. I personally use range. Don't be disheartened by the fact that I have an Eldritch crossbow. A Noxious bow works fine. This is just the best item that I have. You're going to want to make sure you have the best two-handled dual-wield weapon that you've got. And then you're going to want to use Ghost Hunter gear because these are counted as ghosts. To get the maximum set bonus, you're going to want to make sure that you have 3 pieces of the Ghost Hunter outfit and 1 augmentable piece of armor, preferably your top, as it will provide more defensive stats. I personally use a tier 80 range top, and you're going to want to make sure that you have Scavenging 4 and Undead Slayer on this. This will ensure that you get a 7% damage boost against any undead creatures, which also stacks with a Salve Amulet, so this is huge here, and Scavenging 4 is going to make you a ton more profit an hour, so you're going to want to make sure you have that. Next up, as these count as undead, you're going to want to use your Salve Amulet E. You can get this by questing, simply Google it on the wiki if you don't have one already, but I'm going to assume that most of you do. The gem bag's great here because these have a very high chance of rolling a gem drop table, so make sure you bring that. Also, I'd recommend bringing an Ancient Elven Ritual Shard, as with this alone, by using Protect Magic, you'll be able to sustain your prayer points the entire hour. Also, for those of you that want to bring an Enhanced Excalibur, you may as well. You don't need the space or anything else. You don't necessarily need this to stay alive, but it's in the preset because I take it everywhere. You're going to want to make sure you have your Spring Cleaner, as these drop some salvage and a ton of battle staves, so this will help increase your profits and make it even more AFK. If you want to make even more profit, don't use the Spring Cleaner on the battle staves, and either high alch them or use magic notepaper on them. This will allow you to maximize your profits, but it does make it less AFK by quite a bit. So you have the choice, you can either make more profit or be more AFK. So use this information accordingly to what you want to do. Then you're also going to want to have alch runes if you're going to be high alching the battle staves. But alongside that, they also drop a ton of dragon boots and dragon gauntlets that you're going to want to high alch or magic notepaper at a minimum. So bring them along. If you're ranging, make sure you have adequate bolts and arrows. I just use incendiary bolts because they're cheap. And then in my invent, I have all of the placeholder drops. This is important here as you're able to actually have your loot interface open the whole time now due to the recent update. And this enables you to literally just sit there and press space every 2 minutes, making this extremely AFK. Also, Holy Aggro Overloads, these are going to be the best in slot here. If you don't have these, just use their counterparts, as in Aggression Potions with Overloads and Prayer Renewals separately. Obviously, if you have these, you're going to want them so that you can maximize your inventory space, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. For those of you that don't have range gear, there's a mage set up on screen. I'll have revolution bars for these later. The only difference here, you're going to have a Noxious Staff, and you're also going to want to bring a mage top instead of a range one. And then finally, for your perks, on your weapon, you're going to want a Precise 6 alongside Coroming 4. And then on your armor, like I said, Undead Slayer and Scavenging 4 are your way to go. So in terms of the revolution bars that we're going to be using, on screen now are your range and mage ones. I know that they've recently changed the way that Auto Retaliate works and Revolution works, but channeled abilities still seem to be pretty bad when it comes to using Revolution, as if an enemy dies when you're using, say, a Rapid Fire, there'll be a heavy delay before you can attack the next enemy, so I tend not to use them and I find that I can make decent money here. As always, if you don't have Greater Chain or Ricochet, they're still great to use as that AoE. Don't feel like you need these, but they will increase your kills an hour if you have them. So in terms of area looting, the most important thing that makes this possible is the Lorehound Familiar. You get this from using quest points as rewards at the quest caravan in Varrock, and when you have 125 quest points, it increases your area loot, and the increase in this actually lets you stand in one spot and be able to loot all 5 of the spiritual mages from the same spot without moving. Without this, these ain't really worth doing, so I'd recommend getting that. The Undead Slayer Sigil, if you want to be try-hard, wouldn't recommend it. You can use it, but it is a useful item, so it's on here. As mentioned previously, the Salve Amulet E is going to increase your kills an hour. Corruption Shot and Blast, great abilities for anything in game, so I'd recommend getting them. As I said, to maximise your profit, Greater Chain and Ricochet will increase your kills an hour. And Vampirism Aura and Penance Aura are great here. And if you have a Vamp Aura, you will camp the Salve Amulet E. But if you're going to be using a Penance Aura, then I'd recommend using a Blood Amulet to sustain your hit points. Also, if you have collected over 50 souls of different NPCs in the game, you unlock a direct teleport to the pyramid, so you're going to want to bring your Slayer Codex if you have that. If not, a teleport to House in Menethos is also just as quick, so bring either of these. Worst case scenario, you're going to have to teleport to the Menethos Lodestone. So for the method itself, there's nothing special here. Just use the Revolution bar that I do and protect from magic, putting on your Vamp or Penance Aura. If you did want to increase your kills an hour, you could bring prayer potions and use some form of DPS prayer. I'm going to assume that most of you are going to just camp these, so using this prayer will not be sustainable and you'll have to bank more often, so I wouldn't recommend doing this if you want to truly AFK. And if you don't want to AFK, what are you doing here? Go kill some bosses and make some more money. And then you simply just stand in this spot that I do, let Revolution do all of the work, and have your loot interface open at all times thanks to the latest update. And what I do is every 2 minutes, I press space and that will loot everything on the ground before it despawns. And then every 5 minutes, I have keybound my Ancient Elven Ritual Shard and my Overload. So I will press 1 and 2 every 5 minutes and it will basically keep me unlobbied whilst maintaining my prayer points and keeping my aggression potion active. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing special to this. Just sit here and AFK to your heart's content. Great to do when you're at work or on another account. And if you're an Iron Man, I'd recommend doing these because of the amount of soul runes that you get that you're going to need for Vuln Bombs. And for those of you wondering what are the notable drops that you're going to be making your money from, on screen now I'm going to be showing you the loot tracker that I have made. It's in the description below. Simply just make a copy of this and put your achievable kills an hour into it. I'm able to get 876 kills an hour on average. This is over the course of like 5 hours of testing. I am going to be doing a loot from 10,000 of these in the future so you can see what the actual results are. The bulk of your profits are actually going to be coming from the soul runes, which is around 1900 soul runes every single hour on average. And the battle staves are going to add up a hefty chunk of about 2.4 mil an hour if you collect them and note them. If you don't do this and you use the spring cleaner, you're probably going to get around 10 mil an hour, as the spring cleaner will break down your battle staffs and make you actually lose money, but it does make it a ton more AFK. You're also going to get a ton of profit from the air orbs and the Serenic Scales, which you're going to get nearly 2 of these an hour. And if you're an Iron Man, these really are great to do. You're going to get a ton of like GP from High Alks. You're going to get Battle Staves and Air Orbs for crafting XP. You're going to get Water and Fire Talismans for summoning. And you're going to get nearly 2 Serenic Scales an hour, which is going to be not enough to make your full set, but it will add up over time if you're going to do these consistently to get your soul runes. So that's everything for this guide. Thank you everyone for making it to the end of the video, and hopefully you found something useful. As always, your feedback is always appreciated to help improve the channel, so feel free to drop a comment down below with any recommendations that you may have. And also, for those of you wondering that my voice sounds different, I'm actually using a new mic that I've got, so let me know if you prefer this or the old one. If you found the guide useful, feel free to drop a like, and also heavily recommend dropping a subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. And as always, thank you for watching.